Bulls fans everywhere got news yesterday when Lonzo Ball picked up his player option, sending a lot of Bulls fans surprisingly into a bit of a tisk over it. I don't know what many people expect. We'll talk a little bit more about that, and then we're going to get into the mailbag. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content. And so I want to start off here, right? I know I had an emergency episode yesterday when the Lonzo Ball news dropped. A lot of you guys turned into that. But there was a lot of surprise, like surprise from Bulls fans that he would pick up this option. I even saw some people kind of blaming AK. Like, I get it, yes, AK gave him the deal, gave him the player option. At that time when they gave him that deal, though, you know, Lonzo Ball was a player that's supposed to be, would still theoretically be really approaching his prime. And so it shouldn't be any shock that Lonzo Ball picked up his player option. Lonzo doesn't owe anything to this franchise, and I get it. You know, I see some of you guys, very small few of you guys saying like, well, Lonzo should have done right. The team, he's already gotten so many millions of dollars from us. But it comes down to it. Will you leave $20 million on the table knowing that you're not going to get that anywhere else if you opt out of this contract? You may not even get another contract with where you are right now until you can prove that you're healthy. It just made the most business sense from Lonzo Ball to pick up this option. And, you know, we'll see if he can get back on the court. In yesterday's emergency episode, I really, went over the different options. I'm not going to go into them in depth. I'm going to really quickly recap them here. Let's say Lonzo Ball is going to get cleared and he'll be able to play next season. The number of games is probably not going to be that much, but if he is cleared for basketball activities, he gets cleared, he plays next season. He can not get cleared, right? And then we just have another year of him being on contract but not playing, and this contract will expire at the end of the year. The Bulls also could look to use it as an expiring deal in trades, which is something that we have seen happen around the NBA, whether the player's injured or not. Like I pointed out in yesterday's episode. Hello, Al-Farouq Aminu, right? Like we got that contract and used it, but nobody planned on really using him, but it was a contract to help fill other deals, right? We did something similar with Luol Deng as well when, people kind of understood that Luol was not going to really play anymore. So it's things that have happened before. And it is a possibility that the Bulls, even though he opted into this, depending on how aggressive the AK is, that it can still be used in deals. So it's not the end of the world that Lonzo Ball opted out. It's not the end of the options. It doesn't just automatically mean that if he's not cleared, nothing can come. I'm not saying that those things are likely. We got to see how aggressive AK really wants to be and how he addresses it. But look at it this way. This is another tool potentially at AK's disposal to use. And the career-ending injury exception option is still there as well, one that I didn't just mention in that list. So there's still plenty of options that can wind up this being used in a different way. It takes your front office, really to kind of look ahead and be aggressive about doing that. And, that may come with some future picks having to be given up or whatnot. We'll see what happens with it. So, that's just it when it comes down to. It shouldn't be any surprise. And I wouldn't let this one frustrate too many people. Yeah, I get it that it's part of the overall frustration with this franchise and how we've been operating here for the last few years. That part I do understand. But at the end of the day, I mean, like I said, it should have been expected. There was like zero chance that Lonzo Ball was not going to pick up that option. So now we see what the Bulls do next. And, and like I talked about in yesterday's episode, this is expected to be a pretty busy offseason period for all teams around the NBA. So we'll see if the Bulls can really get involved in that, how aggressive they really want to be in that. And that's just the end of the story there. Right? We'll see what comes of it. And, ultimately, all we want is this team to kind of make sense, right? We want it to make sense. Yes, some people do want change just for the sake of change. I know there are some people that whether they realize that they're asking for change just for the sake of change, but, it's up to this front office to try to improve this team. And when you've had several off seasons where that hasn't happened, right? We haven't really seen the outwardly moves that show that you're really trying to improve this team in a way that everybody wants to see. Maybe this can come in. I know people have this rightful mindset over they haven't done anything, so why should we expect them to do anything? And that is fair. But I would also add to it this. The last time we did see this offseason, this front office, I should say, get busy was an offseason where they had no salary cap space. They found out a way to bring in Lonzo DeMar and Alex Caruso after trading for Nikola Vucevic at that prior trade deadline. So it's just because things look bleak right now, it doesn't necessarily mean they will stay that way. But it will need AK, Eversley, this Bulls front office, as if Eversley doesn't end up taking another job, to really move with intent, really move with a purpose, really move with a goal in mind. Because once they have a goal in mind, they seem to execute that pretty well. Once they understand that they have to be aggressive. So, this is, I've said it before myself, like, this is my last faith, the time I give faith into this front office. If they show me, they show me, right? And I would love for them to show me and prove whatever they're going to do. But until that's shown via actions, after this front office, you get no more faith from me. You got to, everything is all at that point about what you show me. You can't keep resting off what you did 3 years ago now. It's time to get busy. And that just means improving the roster. It doesn't mean everybody needs to be traded. But I think the Bulls have more things at their disposal if they really, truly want to be aggressive than what some people realize. The bigger question isn't can they? It's will they? And I guess that's what we'll see and what will be told by the way they handle this offseason. But it's Sunday, so that means this episode is mainly built around your voicemails. We're going to go get into the first one now. This one's from Reginald.
Hey, Reginald from man. I was just watching this game, and I saw that trade with Caruso, and also heard that he only has one year left on his deal with the Clippers. In my mind, I'm like, not only would I trade for Tyler, I would give them not whatever they want, but like Billy Donovan, Javon Carter, a first-round pick, and Jerry Randolph, first grandchild. That's how much I want Tyler to be the coach of the Chicago Bulls. Not because of how much I dislike Billy's coaching style or how frustrated he makes me, which he does, but because I think everybody knows that Tyler is one of the better coaches in the league. When you talk about who's your top 5 NBA coaches, Tyler's name is always, on that list. And could he get the most out of this team? Yes. Can he get the most out of the fan base be behind him? 100%. We don't have to worry about him not knowing when to call timeout, not knowing when to properly sub someone in and out, not know when to draw up the right plays, not know how to have the right personnel to defend the pick and roll. It's just when I look at the struggles he's had with the Clippers, that's mainly because of injuries, mainly because of guys doing like Kawhi missing half the year, Paul George missing a third of the year, and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to hold that against him, especially when I see him with like a third of his team on the injured reserve. And I know that his team is still playing hard, playing 100%, giving effort. But what's your opinion? Do you think Ty Lue will be a good fit for the Bulls?
All right, Reginald. Ty Lue. Now, here's the thing. I'm not willing to trade for Ty Lue because they're going to want a lot of stuff back. And here's the thing that I keep saying. I get it. The natural inclination of everyone. So this isn't anything against you, Reginald. This isn't anything against anybody who thinks this way either. Because I've done it. We all do it. Whether we agree with it or not, we all do it, right? Is that we immediately think to names. And that's rarely sustainable. Sometimes you do get a coach that you come in that's a name that built his name elsewhere, that comes in and he ends up staying with your franchise. I want longevity. Typically, when you see coaches stay with franchises and build a winning organization and program, they're coaches that people don't necessarily know before they come in. I don't want the Bulls to go after a big name head coach. I don't. I want them to find the next great head coach, somebody that's going to be here over time, over years, and build a system, build a culture. And that's what I would love to see. And it seemed like that's the route that the Bulls were going to go. Then Billy Donovan came available. Keep in mind, Ime Udoka was one of the finalists for this job here. Then Billy Donovan came available. He was the best coach on the market, and the Bulls pulled the trigger on that, bringing in a big name coach because because of what they saw and what he's done around the league. If they move on, whenever they move on from Billy Donovan, whether that's him moving from the coaching to the front office or moving on after the end of his 2-year contract, whatever that is, I want them to find the next great head coach. Whether that's somebody that they scout that's in college or an assistant on somewhere else's bench or over in Europe, whatever it is, I want them to find the next great head coach. That's just personally what I want. I'm not saying that that's what everybody else should feel or agree with. Not saying that at all either. But that is what I feel. That's what I would like to see. And hopefully that's the route it ends up going. But, I mean, hey, we'll end up seeing. Is Ty Lue a bad coach? No, when you look at it, he has a 60% win percentage over his career. Well, 59% win percentage over his career. So he is somebody that theoretically could come in and definitely help this team. And I do think that his system is different enough to where he really empowers the players. But I don't want to keep chasing the names. I want to find the next coach that we look at and say, like Tom Thibodeau, who was an assistant on the bench, like Phil Jackson, who was assistant here, that we then look back on and say, hey, they had a really good run here. That's what I would love to see, but I know everybody doesn't agree with it, and they're not wrong. You're not wrong for wanting Ty Lue, right? Nobody is. Ty Lue does look like a coach that can be a really good coach if you give him the right system, and a front office is going to be aggressive about giving him the roster he needs. No knock on Ty. This is not kind of the way I would want to see the Bulls go if they do move on from Billy Donovan. But Ty is just a coach. Just answer the bones of your question. Would I like to see Ty? If it just came down to it and Ty Lue was the coach that they hired, I would love it. I would love it. Wouldn't necessarily be the route that I want to go, but then again, that's why I'm not a GM. I'm somebody here talking about my favorite team in my studio that I built. And that's all I can say with that. Now, let's see what this front office does. All right, let's get into the next voicemail. This one's from Larry.
What up, man? This is Larry. Man, I was just reading some of the draft profiles from NBA Draft.net, and I've never seen such dispirited amounts of information put on there. It's just like, well, it needs to work on the shot. It's just an act for her. Just different. It's like the people who wrote it have no hope for some of these draft picks. Hopefully they're just trying to downplay it, but I've never seen that before. It's usually they're trying to show you the uplifting parts of their games and then, give you the things that they need to work on. But most of them were just ho-hum at best. The picks that we're looking at, potentially getting somewhere between, really 11 and 14. Even if we go up, it's not looking great. Just listen to your last episode too with Alex Caruso. My preference would be to trade him, fix, move him out if we can, move that. But we got to move that without giving up any draft assets. If it takes moving Caruso and not taking much money back, I'm with that. That's fine. I'm fine with giving him a deal, knowing that this is he's 30. This is his prime. I mean, his athleticism is there, and it's the end of that deal is not going to look great from a monetary standpoint. But like I said, he's not the problem. He's going to do whatever he needs to do to contribute. But I would much prefer to trade him out for assets or to move off of Zach LaVine. That deal is just not good. But I appreciate the information you're putting out. Look forward to your draft profiles coming up, and hopefully you can shed a little bit more positive light on some of these, prospects that we got coming up. Appreciate it.
I agree, like moving on from Caruso or extending him, right? And I do think, now I disagree with, I don't think Caruso is going to be a bad contract by the end of it. Yeah, he's over, he's what, 30 now, I think. But I think that Alex Caruso's game isn't built off athleticism. Is he athletic? Can he do some athletic things? Yes, but I don't look at Alex Caruso's game being one that's built off huge athleticism. I look at it as it's built off motor. Motor is a big part of what Alex Caruso is, right? He understands how to use the size that he does have, the positional size that he does have. Now, of course, you're probably not going to want to play him at power forward when he's 33 years old, but you just never know. But I don't think that one of the things that I'm not worried about, if you give Alex Caruso a 3-4-year contract and he ends up being here till he's almost 35, I'm not really worried about it being a bad contract. Is he going to slide? Yeah, of course. It happens to everybody, right? But I'm not really looking at it and saying this is going to be a terrible contract by the end of this deal. And maybe I have too much faith in that, right? That's definitely a possibility. But I think ultimately that if the Bulls can come to a reasonable contract extension, still one that he's worth. I've said it before. Alex Caruso is probably going to get $12 to $15 million. And, if they can do that in the right number of years, things like that, I wouldn't mind it at all. If they have any inclination or feeling that Alex Caruso is not going to re-sign with the Bulls, to me, you got to try to move him while he has value. And as an expiring contract and a player that can sign a contract extension as soon as he's traded, if he is traded to a contender, and the fact that his contract's less than $10 million, those are all things that can be very valuable out on the open market if the Bulls don't reach a contract extension with him that they like and they do decide to move him. Do I want to see Alex Caruso ultimately stay here? Yes. But if that's not happening, I think the Bulls got to be aggressive. Again, do some of that future forecasting, look ahead, and go ahead and move him. It would suck to lose Alex Caruso, but you got to do what's best for your team. And that's what the one thing that I hope in all of this, that this franchise and this front office starts realizing. Do what's best for your team, for the product on the basketball court. Take care of that first. We'll worry about the rest later. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from my brother Corn.
Hey, what's going on, King? It's Corn, man. I would have left this message a little bit earlier, but this goddamn Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef, man, this shit has gotten ugly. So, that's why I'm leaving it a little bit late. And to all the Drake fans, and to everybody in the world, K-Dot in the West Coast won again. Anyway, yeah, man, meet the Grams, okay? That's all I got to say. Meet the damn Grams. Lord have mercy, Jesus. Anyway, we ain't here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Patrick Williams. That's what I'm here to talk about, Patrick Williams. So, let's speak on Patrick Williams. Let's see. Pat, man, the beginning of the season, first of all, everybody know I am a P. Will fan. I am a true P. Will fan. Still is. P. Will, did he have a disappointing season? Yes. Did he have a good month? Yes, he had a good month before he went down. What should we pay P. Will? This is what I say we should pay P. Will. And I don't know if y'all going to agree or don't agree. I should say 3 to 4 years for $50 million. I see $30 million, 2 years for $19 million. No, that's bullshit. P. Will. He's only 22 years old. I understand that he's been in the league for 4 years, right? I understand that. And I understand this shit is microwave shit and everybody wants these motherfuckers to be superstars, okay? I'm going to ask y'all this. How long did it take Ant-Man to become Ant-Man? Ant-Man just did come up out here and just become Ant-Man, Same with Kobe White. Same with Ayo. Same with a lot of players that we always just throw aside just because they have a bad season. And I know the jury is out on P. Will, and they ready to go ahead and execute the brother. But I'm just going to say again, he's only 22 years old. Only 22 years old, y'all. Let's go ahead, give him another contract, 3 years, with some incentives, about $50 million, and let's let him grow. Let's let him develop. I love what you said, Hayes, that he should develop with our Peter Patton and them guys. So I only got a little bit left, man, but I appreciate you, King, like always. Man, let's have faith in P. Will. Blessings.
Corn has really turned into one of my favorite people. I'm not even just talking callers. I mean, I love how passionate Corn is about the things that he's passionate about, right? And first of all, Meet the Grams was cool, but Not Like Us was listen, Kendrick has played this so well. By the way, if you guys love hip-hop talk, I know I'll put it over in the community tab. I do have a hip-hop podcast as well, hip-hop and music podcast that we haven't been as consistent on. We're going to be more consistent. It's called The Breaks Radio. You can go to the community tab. It's probably the most recent post there with our video if you want to go and check that out. But with that said, paying P. Will $50 million over 4 years. The problem is that had he been able to stay healthy, I could absolutely see that. And if we're reading the tea leaves, which I could be wrong on, I'm not saying that a 4-year, $50 million deal is the absolute worst, right? I know some Bulls fans are going to absolutely get triggered by that. And they say, P. Will is this, P. Will is that. How can you give him $50 million? That's only $12.5 million over 4 years. That's actually a really, really decent contract. And so I like that contract that you gave. Now, I don't know if he takes the 4 years. I think if you're not getting the max, P. Will's probably going to take a 2+1 deal that gets him back out in the market by the time he's 25 to get a max level contract potentially. So I think that that's going to happen, but that's a really reasonable contract for P. Will. And I think that is one that we could probably see him sign for. So really good insight there, Corn, as always. And I think that the P. Will decision, I think is going to be probably one of the ones that stretch out the longest. The Zach decision, I think that's going to be made early, where it's maybe as soon as the draft, maybe as soon as the first week of free agency. The DeMar DeRozan, I don't see that going past the first 3 to 4 days of free agency either. The P. Will one, though, that could last to the second wave of free agency, just depending on the talks that he has with the Bulls, how far away they are, and if he does have to go out to another team to kind of find a deal. So, but that's a really reasonable contract. I think 12.5 per is a solid deal for me for P. Will, and you get to lock him in. So we'll see what happens with that one. Great insight, Corn, as always. Let's get into this last voicemail. This one's from Oscar.
Hey, it's Oscar, Jersey again, man. What's going on? Yeah, brother, responding to your last episode, a couple episodes ago maybe. Edie, man, that's a no-go. I don't feel his game is going to translate well to the league. He's too slow, and then we don't want to spend a draft pick that high on a player that in the fourth quarter at crunch time, we're going to have to sit him on the bench because he's a liability on the defensive end. And as part of with my last voicemail, I feel like I misspoke, and it's just a matter of I just feel like they're not doing a good job of drafting players, highly skilled players. Like I feel like in this modern NBA, Luka, you have players like Jamie Haskins or whatever from Miami, guys that athletically are limited in the NBA because for a period in the NBA, guys were taking GMs were taking high flying prospects that couldn't do anything. But I'm just saying, I feel like we need guys that can do multiple things. But we need players that can contribute, like you said, pass, shoot, rebound, contribute all around game. We need more players that like. I get the athletic upside to some players, but we need players that can be. And Joseph Patrick, man, I'm really torn with that because I don't. Unlike you, I've seen a couple spurts here and there, but I just haven't seen enough consistency for me to say that he has that upside that you want to pay $100 million to, or even $60 million to keep around and hope that it develops. I just don't. I think physically he has it, and I just think mentally he's not. It's gonna. I don't think he's gonna be able to get there, but that's just my opinion. Thank you for the call, man. And yeah, man, I watch all the games in the season, man. League pass is killing me. Take care, man.
Completely agree with you on Zach Edey, bro. And I know that people disagree, but Zach Edey, to me, he's just so slow. Like, he's literally starting off where Vooch is ending his career as far as the quickness on pick-and-roll defense, things like that. Now, he's a smart basketball player, and I got to give Zach Edey credit for that. He is a highly intelligent, smart basketball player, and he does work on his game to try to improve things that he can do. But sometimes you just have physical limitations. And so it'd be different if like the Bulls had a second round pick or even a late first. If the Bulls were picking like 25 and below, then yeah, Zach Edey is a better option there. But considering that the Bulls are going to pick 11th, I think the lowest they can go, if I'm not mistaken, is like 12th, depending on teams jump them. So because of that, it's just so many players with way higher upside and more natural to what this team wants to play like, to me, that would fit than Zach Edey. Keep in mind, this is a team that we've seen it. When they play with a quicker pace, they're a better team. Zach Edey is slow. It's not going to happen, man. And while he's strong as hell, and like I said, smart, I got to give him credit. He is an intelligent basketball player. That just doesn't always work. It doesn't always work. So we'll see what happens with that. But I do agree. Find somebody who can contribute now. We've been taking these projects for 3 years in a row, basically. Now, one of them in Ayo Dosunmu did hit, but we've been taking projects for a long time. Let's get a player who brings something that could be used right away. And I know some people, shout out to Winton, are going to say things like, well, will Billy Donovan even play them? And I think that's a bad criticism because we saw Ayo play early. We saw P. Will play early. And then we seen Dalen not play early and Julian Phillips not play early, right? So there's been enough to say that it could go either way. And I do think depending on need is when Billy Donovan really plays a player. And if we get a center that's highly athletic, things like that, can protect the rim, can rebound, and we lose Andre Drummond, there's an absolute need at that point. And then I think that would incline Billy Donovan to play him. At least I hope so. But let me know what you guys think on everything down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.